This video is brought to you in partnership with GamerSupps. Use code Jazzy for 10% off your next order. If somebody told you that they could make you live forever, would you say yes or no? That instead of death being able to be reborn in a brand new body and to carry on with your life as if nothing changed? Well, that is exactly the universe we're going to be trekking into today as we play as a grizzled detective delving into the problematic and political world of consciousness swapping. Of course, I'm talking about... For all of the achievements in Nobody Wants to Die, we are going to have to throw ourselves into the deep end of huge political conspiracies, trying to solve some of the craziest murders with time-bending gadgets, and of course trying to keep our own mind intact whilst doing all of that. Nobody Wants to Die is a very first ambitious release for critical hit games, who seem to be giving us a perfect world blended with Bioshock, L.A Noire, Cyberpunk, and maybe a bit of Deus Ex thrown in on top. So is this latest detective experience easy, or are we going to be really struggling to collect all 26 achievements that this game has to offer? Well, I think we should waste absolutely no time and crack straight on. So with that, welcome to the achievement grind. The game begins with an advert on the benefits of consciousness swapping. Gone are the days of death if you can afford the body subscription, that is. Your brain matter will be swapped into a new tube of meat on the event of your death. Amazing, I'm sure this won't be abused by the rich and powerful at all. We play as James Kara, a hard-working, throw the book out of the window sort of rough detective, as he takes in a flick with the love of his life, Rachel, who has already started the would you love me if I was a lamp rubbish. No time for the missus though, as we seem to have an episode. It's visually nice, but not the best news. We've recently swapped bodies ourselves and our new host wasn't exactly looking after himself, so we have to pop magic pills and booze to make it through. Typical. It also appears our wife was a figment of our imagination. Isn't that always the case? But alas, you folks don't need to worry as we already have our first achievement. Now, in this lovely car of ours, there are collections of things to touch and inspect. We need to go through and have a look at it all. A simple achievement to start us off with, but we're officially on the board now with Restless Hands. With the first achievement ours, we're rewarded with one of the most beautiful shots I've seen in a long time from gaming. It honestly reminds me of seeing Rapture for the first time.
What the... Lock.
Come on. Come on. Beautiful. Anyway, we have work to do. The police chief gets in touch with a new online partner and gives us a small job to do, which is great considering we lost our job a couple of weeks ago after a rather nasty train event that we caused, but more on that later. Our job is to investigate the death of Mr. Edward Green, a very important person in this universe. We need to go and find the Icarite within his head and deliver it to the next appropriate person. The Icarite being the technology that lets people consciousness swap, that is. We figure out the plan, have another episode, pop some sweets, and unlock the next achievement as well with Dark City. Arriving on the scene of the crime, we certainly notice that things haven't gone well for this rich git, as he appears to be doing his best impression of an executive toy, as Green hangs from the last ever cherry tree. The bends make it tricky for a positive ID on Green though, so we need to use our first insane gadget to help us. The Reconstructor does exactly what it says. This tool allows us to find data and use it to rewind the crime scene to have a true look at what happened. But here we're going to use it to scan the Icarite to make sure that it's actually who it says it is. Only there's a problem. It's melted, completely broken, and the Icarite isn't just a little bit of altered carbon or something, like it is a big deal, and this is final death. And there is no way somebody like Green did this to himself, so we get to work finding clues and rewinding what we can to get more of a complete picture. Now, a couple of things to quickly mention. The first is that in each of the crime scenes you visit in the game, there are a ton of clues and a ton of things to connect and go through. So just as a warning, I'm not going to be going into every little thing that we find, just summing up the scenes with a couple of big clues scattered throughout. The next worth mentioning is that the choices that you make in this game can affect the outcome of cases and the ending itself, so your playthroughs may be slightly different, and that's okay, just again, something worth noting. Carrying on with the investigation of Green's death, we soon find out this was likely not willing, as there are many signs of foul play. On the tree that burnt, we see a snake carving with a date, and we find out that the tree was set alight after some flammable jelly that was spread onto the tree caught fire. Several minutes later, we confirm that this wasn't an accident or a suicide. He originally put up a struggle but then just gave in to the killer's demands and was pushed, resulting in the state that we find him in. Our last find of the official investigation shows Green tearing wires out of a control box, but when we go to look closer we find a flask with a rather animated snake on the bottle. That crawls up our arm and gives us another vision of our wife as a stranger whispers in our ear. That's all we can take from this crime scene though. However, we can still walk around the place and see how the rich live. And after stealing a real cigar, we come across some documents on his table. It's full of names and seemingly doesn't mean much right now, but by not burning these documents, that unlocks us our next achievement as well with Cold Case. If it hasn't become clear yet, Green was a wealthy man. I mean, one of the richest people in New York, and this is proved immediately as we find a wall of old Earth memorabilia. From bikes to horse saddles, this office is a shrine to what Earth used to be, including chocolate. Chocolate has been extinct for some time, but we find some in a jar. The next achievement is for giving it a right good smell and describing it to Sarah on the phone. We describe it as greasy and leathery for some reason, but that doesn't stop us from unlocking another achievement with Sense of Mystery. With our lungs full of stolen tobacco and chocolate smell, we leave the crime scene and complete the first mission of the game, which is also an achievement, unlocking Who's Afraid of Green. We return to our disgusting apartment to sum up our findings, but before we crack on with the case, another easy achievement is already here for the taking, as when we stumble through the door we can talk to our AI bot friend who helps us with cases. But by simply checking our messages we get another achievement, Old Bastard, when we play a message from the police chief, telling us to hurry up and report this as a suicide. That's not what rings true with us though, as we start our first connections minigame, where we piece our clues together to find motive and hopefully where to look next. Torn wires, a bottle of poison that we stole from the scene, and several clues implying that once again this wasn't an accident. But it's not until Sarah mentions somebody on the phone called Jane Salma, a world-famous psychologist and top of her field. She apparently has been meeting and working with Green recently, so definitely some more leads to follow. The scene ends with us summing up our report. We don't call it a suicide or an accident, it's an outright murder. So for being a brilliant detective, we enjoy the cigar we stole as Kara explains how everything in this universe is fake, everybody is struggling except the rich, and just basically paints how terrible the world is. It turns out though, we get another great lead. The bottle of poison has a fingerprint on it, and the prints belong to someone called Kovalev, one of Green's partners and best friends. So sometime soon we're going to have to head to his bar to have a word with this gent about all of this. And I tell you what folks, his timing is impeccable. As soon as we figure this out, we receive a report that Kovalev's bar, which is located inside of a Zeppelin, is on fire, and it's going down over the city. On command, we feel the impact, so it's time to race to the bar to see what the hell is going on in New York City. Also, for finding the connection, there was also yet another precious unlock with Tenant. We race to Icarus Bar, and once inside we see that things have gone to hell. Now unfortunately there are many corpses scattered amongst the wreckage, so first we need to find out who is Kovalev and identify him, which is going to be a lot easier said than done. We spent a good half hour, 40 minutes piecing together the moments leading to this tragedy. Many of the corpses are high-ranking rich folk, and we even get another smell that Jane Selma was here. But eventually we find out exactly what happened. Kovalev went mental, and I mean totally mental, as he starts open firing on the entire bar, throwing bombs, shooting folks, and ending it all in a massive hail of dynamite for some bizarre reason. Kovalev also deciding to end himself in probably the most over-the-top way possible. More questions present themselves as we soon find a safe behind the bar that bears the same date and snake logo that we found on the tree. Thankfully, being able to rewind all of this means that we can actually take a peek at the contents of the safe, and to see what was so important. All that there is inside is an authentic, real bottle of scotch that we also steal for a job well done. Not only that though, we find a bizarre card of some sorts and another document. A note from Green saying that time is running out and they need to complete the plan, whatever that means. But running out of time is exactly right, as we're then told that this place is about to fall out of the sky with us still in it. Before we can make haste for the exit though, the stranger once again returns to whisper sweet nothings in our ear. This randomer certainly seems to know an awful lot, as he steers us to one final body that we didn't find naturally, and this body has a lot of significance. This is George Boyle, part of the family that invented the Icarite technology, and the stranger gives us a choice. Shoot him through the Icarite and stop this rich arsehole from benefiting off the poor, or, well, don't do that. During the conversation, another episode starts to happen, and I just decide that, yeah, sure, why not? Let's fill him with bullets and make it that much harder for the rich. Not the best work we've ever seen as a policeman officer, but hey, sod it, it's not our problem now. With that, the Zeppelin starts to crash and we sprint, managing to escape at the last possible second by jumping onto the bonnet of our car. Another crime scene completed, and only more questions that need to be asked now. What were Green and Kovalev part of? Were both of their deaths accidents, hacking, or genuine? Well, for now, all we know is that we unlock the next achievement for I as in Icarus. Considering how much effort was needed in the last section, it only makes sense that in the next scene we're chilling on top of our car having a little drink. And to be honest, the real scotch that we stole from the bar is exactly what the doctor ordered. And not only that, but by drinking the forbidden juice, we also unlock another achievement with Old Fashioned. On the bonnet of the car above the city, we call Sarah and spend the next 10 minutes eating pills, drinking booze, and having a lovely heart-to-heart. We discuss the case, our dead wife, and the effect that James is having on his new shell. This calm section ends with us crafting a rather impressive paper aeroplane. We throw it, the scene ends, and it's another achievement with altered states. Briefly though, we appear in Infinite Wealth. Dondoko Island is here, and on the beach is our wife. As we go to get her though, Citra brings out the island demons once again, and we're dragged away by our Icarite before Rachel has a chance to hear us. Oh well. We awake to more beautiful shots of the city and more work that needs to be done. That may have to wait though, as when we go back inside we have a rather nasty episode yet again that is only fixed with some more delicious pills. Our computer tells us that this is a problem though. We need to do a sync test with our Hestio module that will hopefully calm us down a little bit. In this simulation we're calm and quiet in a baseball field as James used to be a keen hitter. Right now we're going through memories to confront them. We need to put the past in the past, something that James has not been able to do. And it even gets off to a decent start. We're imagining calming things and remembering the good days. That is until we want to see how we died in our last shell. For that we need to trek back to the train incident that got our partner killed and started all of this rubbish for our lives. It's tough reliving our partner's death and staring at our own dead body, but we soon exit the Matrix and get ready to crack back on with the job at hand, unlocking us another precious achievement with In the Mouth of Madness. James and Sarah decide that they need to go back to Green's murder site to see if there are any more clues that we missed, and I tell you what, there was indeed a big thing that slipped us by for the first time. But with the card that we found in the safe at the bar, we are now able to unlock a secret safe that takes us to another room full of corpses and blood, and most of the corpses belong to important people in the city. Not the kind you'd expect to find dead like this. The investigation begins normally. We try to find out who shot who, where people ran to, and what clues can take this investigation further. And we do indeed find something odd, and by that I mean an entire room that seems to be the stage for killing and sacrifice. I mean, just look how this poor bloke was posed. Now, the main thing to note is that every single thing in this room was recorded, which is really odd, considering that this was a secret party where everybody was a high-ranking member and was totally slaughtered, but someone or something wanted this footage recorded. With the stranger popping up in our ear more than ever, we're not sure what to believe right now. What is irrefutable though is that the person who killed every single person in this room was Green. We find the footage and it shows him just going absolutely apeshit on his guests until only he remains. Well, for now anyway. James isn't that convinced that this was Green though. It would make no sense for him to want to shoot so many pivotal people, so we start to think that something took over his brain to make him do such foolish things. On the way out though, the stranger gives us another big choice to choose. We can either cover up everything we found by closing the door to the safe, protecting Green and protecting the status quo, however the victims would never have justice, or we can keep the door open and expose everything. Now, you may question my choice, but we cover it up. I didn't think we knew enough to expose everything without the full picture of why, so we keep it hush hush and move on, unlocking Deep Red. We have another problem though, folks, as we now think Sarah's life is in danger and we need to go and help her. Only problem, we have zero idea where she lives, but thank God that the best detective is on the case, as after only 5 minutes of searching, we find a place that seems to tick the boxes. And we definitely seem to be on the right path, as when we break in, we unlock the achievement for finding her apartment with the last house on the right. So I guess we know this is it. It's just a shame that she's decided to fill her house with the creepiest, horrible mannequins. We find out that this was a trap, and we soon plummet through the broken floorboards into a standoff with the stranger. This is crazy though. We know that this isn't the stranger because this has to be Sarah. So we ignore the stranger's taunts and step out, only to be shot by Sarah. We wake up to her fixing our injuries, but this isn't the Sarah we expected. We were told that Sarah is still in her fair shell, and isn't anywhere near this old, so who is this? Well, it turns out that this is actually still Sarah. For money, she auctioned her shell to the black market so that she can afford to bring back her girlfriend who was apparently stolen and stored in the bank. A limbo for folks who can't afford their body subscription, and we've heard throughout the game that it's essentially limbo. After finding all of this out, we take a quiet look around the area that Sarah calls home, and soon we find a Chicken of Justice magazine. And this may not look like much, but it is actually our next achievement. Around the area are spray paintings of chickens, and after completing a somewhat tricky puzzle, we unlock our reward. We peek behind the curtain, spy a massive cock, and unlock the next achievement with Chicken of Justice. An odd achievement, but hey, why not, eh? Alright, enough tomfoolery. We have a final board to complete to figure out what the hell is going on. Long story short, we come to the conclusion, and it's only two options. Either Green is the killer, or the stranger is. And after completing the final board, we unlock nothing but the truth. Sarah just outright asks us then who we think is responsible. Now honestly, even at this point, I didn't really think there was a stranger really. It seemed to be something in our head, so I just trusted that Green was the killer through and through, and it all came down to the bottle of poison. Sarah then decides to check if that poison was used at any past crime scene, and she gets a hit from a train accident that happened 2 weeks ago involving one James Kara. Of course, it's time to go back to the train proper and piece this together, and for following the lead, we also unlock Darkness Under the Stairs. Not before another quick island visit that ends the same way as before. I wonder what this scene represents, but I'm sure we'll find out. Back at the train site, we realise how badly the accident actually was, and how much damage it caused, so we begin our investigation. But things do not go well at all. Desynchronization issues can be deadly, as this is our last memory in a previous shell. This is proved immediately true as the stranger starts to talk to us again, and it appears that he's messing with the footage that we're investigating, as we're not sure if we're the monster shooting up the entire train, or the hero trying to stop the villain from doing just that. And it only gets worse as we start coughing up blood, we see Rachel again, and it all goes totally wrong for us. The hallucinations are getting worse, we're in pain, and we almost drink the poison ourselves, before waking up on the train once again having passed out. Jesus, it's not been an easy couple of days for Kara, but even more problems have still arose. The person currently using Sarah's body is in danger. She is stuck in the middle of some pretty deadly riots in New York, and we need to go and protect the body as it is the only thing Sarah has left. So we take James's ladder and go straight there. When we arrive, yeah, things are not going well at all. And things only get worse as we decide to get intimate with another car, once again waking up in rubble and in pain. Joy. We slowly start to make our way towards where Sarah is, even getting stopped by the chief once again, who asks us what the hell we're doing here. He has finally had enough of our constant interference and just shoots us up, saying that he'll put us in a new sleeve later. Pretty extreme, but even this doesn't stop us from making progress. And soon we thankfully find Jane Salma. Remember her? The psychologist that was working with Dr. Green. Well, it turns out that Jane is the person using Sarah's body. The stranger then starts to shout at us once again using Jane, but we finally call his bluff and we don't think the stranger exists. So we approach and quickly figure out that, yeah, there is no killer, no stranger. It is all in James's head after so many issues with desync and his new sleeve. It turns out that Green and Kovalev's deaths were both genuine suicides. They hatched up an elaborate murder-suicide plot to kill themselves and take down the society with them. The reason was that the desynchronization syndrome that everybody is suffering from when they swap bodies only gets worse with every new swap, and there is nothing anybody can do to stop it. So why fight the inevitable? Cast out the entire system and humanity might recover. Even explaining that the signs of struggle with the Green case was his desynchronization syndrome just acting up. With Sarah's body saved, we put her in touch with the real Sarah. Also guys, I know that this can be confusing, I really am doing my best here. But Salma walks away, and folks, that's the game. Thankfully, for being the bestest detective man, we get the good ending. And honestly, I'm amazed as the endings begin with another desync issue giving us grief. So enough of this. It is time to end it. And I mean literally. We drink the snake poison ourselves, which melts our ichorite and prevents us ever from being reborn. We then throw ourselves off a roof and unlock whatever happened to Jane Salma. We then awake for the final time on the beach. Except it's not miserable, it's a lovely lovely day and we finally get to feel the sand on our toes as we embrace death and finally get to be with the wife. And there we go. For completing the game and getting the good ending, we unlock 2 more achievements with Firewalk with Me and End of Deadly Dreams. That's not all though, folks, as in the credits you can listen to a recording from Sarah. She says that meeting her pregnant self was weird, but it all worked out. She got her body back and even managed to get her girlfriend Taylor out of the bank. So that makes me feel quite good actually. Almost as good as unlocking yet another achievement with 1 missed call for listening to said message. Now folks, we've only got a couple of small achievements left to clean up and to get the other ending. So let's quickly get all of them and finish this amazing game. Starting with our second playthrough, this time in Green's flat, instead of keeping the documents, we burn them. Simple and honestly no idea why, but sod it. We did it for fire starter. Back in our apartment, we're also decontaminating our shell when we get into a friendly argument with another neighbour and begin to fight, literally and verbally. We just have to win the fight this time by choosing the right options. When our foe cowers and retreats in shock and pain, we also gain the game, which you've all just lost by the way. The next 2 are extremely easy, just also easy to miss. The first is for catching a message out of the air when you're witnessing the fall of man. Catching it unlocks us You've Got Mail, and the final miscellaneous achievement has us save the tree in our apartment. During an episode it falls off its precious podium, so we just put it back for Ray of Light. Folks, the final achievement we have now is just for getting any of the bad endings that the game has to offer, and this time we throw all caution to the wind. We believe the stranger is real, we try to shoot Selma, who instead then shoots us, but we get the last laugh as we pop her in the spine while she walks away victorious. This ending starts with Sarah losing everything, Selma dying, and our Icarite getting stored in the bank, rotting in limbo waiting for the day to be potentially reborn again. Definitely a horrible option, but the final achievement for returning to the darkness also unlocks us Anguish, which means that, folks, there we go. I cannot stress how much I enjoyed this game, considering again it is the first release by Critical Hit Games and it only costs 20 quid. It's a masterpiece and a steal at that price. And I'm quite sad now folks, as with this game 100%ed, that means for now our job is done and the grind is over. So yeah, it's no secret, I absolutely love this game. I feel it gets pretty much everything correct. The mechanics are fun and interesting, the shots are beautiful, and some of the best that I've ever seen in gaming. Cases are intense, and it is also really fun to try to figure out what happened. The only thing that I will say is a slight negative is that the story can be a little bit vague, so I did have to piece some of the information out for myself outside of the game, but once it clicked, oh, I still loved that as well. In conclusion, this game is a masterpiece and an incredible start for the team, so I am already very much looking forward to what comes next from them all. So for now, let's just go to the stats. It took us just over 10 hours to collect all 26 achievements in Nobody Wants to Die, meaning that we unlocked an achievement every 23 minutes. My rating for Nobody Wants to Die is going to be an extraordinarily well-deserved 9.5 out of 10, considering that this is the very first release by this company, and of course this game only costs 20 quid. It is a masterpiece and everybody should play this. From the story, the mechanics, the themes, the settings, the shots, the dialogue, it is all absolutely top draw. And if this game came out and said that it cost £60 and was made by a AAA developer company, I would believe it. So honestly, you really need to play this game. The only reason why I'm deducting half of a point is because the story can be a little bit difficult to follow, but once the story does click, it is actually really good as well. But for the difficulty of Nobody Wants to Die, I'm only going to be giving this a 1.5 out of 10. Everybody and their mothers should be able to easily grind this game. It asks for nothing special, no difficult tasks, just play the game, do a couple of miscellaneous things, and you are good to go. So I am also going to be giving the hardest achievement to simply getting the good ending, as sometimes a lot of things can throw this off course, so making sure you get the good ending can be a little bit tricky. Other than that, an absolute piece of piss. But there we go folks, thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed creating it. If you did, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe for more. We have some amazing achievement grinds coming up, some really big games and some stuff that I absolutely cannot wait to show you, so I hope to see you for those. And if I can convince you, we also do have a Twitch where we go for the achievement grinds live, and it would be lovely to have you, so feel free, come watch the suffering and the struggling. It's wonderful, not for me, but it'll hopefully be good for you. As also, when we hit 10,000 followers on Twitch, I'm going to be announcing something that you have all been asking me for months, so make sure that happens. But there we go folks, thank you all so much for watching. I really hope to see you next Sunday, as we are going to be covering another phenomenally big game and part of an ongoing series for the channel. So I really hope to see you there. Until then though, I have rambled for far too long, so take care, bye bye for now.